Here we go.
Is Kevin Durant a great player? He is, and he's been stifled by Boston.
And I was going to go there. And let me tell you something. I don't want to badmouth the dude, but I see you guys always talk about that championship stuff. I try to tell y'all, all these bus riders, they don't mean nothing to me.
Charles Barkley has been saying the same thing about Kevin Durant for years, and suddenly, it's starting to sound a lot less like trolling, and a lot more like a warning people didn't want to hear. The whole bus rider conversation used to get dismissed as pure disrespect. Fans argued Barkley was bitter, unfair, or just trying to provoke headlines. But this Los Angeles Lakers vs Houston Rockets series is forcing people to revisit what Barkley actually meant. Because Chuck's point was always pretty simple: if you weren't driving the bus, don't carry yourself like you built the entire journey. That doesn't mean championships don't count. It doesn't mean the rings aren't real. Nobody can erase what Durant accomplished with the Golden State Warriors. But Barkley's argument was never about whether Durant won. It was about context. About who the engine really was when the pressure got highest. And now, with Durant carrying the responsibility of being the unquestioned centerpiece again in Houston, the conversation feels different. Because this time, there's no already built dynasty waiting for him. No established championship machine operating before he arrived. Now the spotlight sits directly on him, every adjustment, every late game possession, every leadership moment, every playoff expectation. And under that weight, people are starting to hear Barkley's words differently. Not as hate, but as a challenge Durant has spent years trying to fully answer. Because being a superstar and being the force that carries an entire franchise through championship pressure are not always the same thing. That's the distinction Barkley has always been pointing toward. And right now, whether fans like it or not, the pressure of proving him wrong is sitting squarely on Kevin Durant's shoulders.
If you ain't driving the bus, don't walk around talking about you're a champion.
That's where the separation really begins to show. Because when you're the bus driver, everything lands on you. If the team loses, your name carries it. If the offense falls apart, you're expected to solve it in real time. When defenses start trapping, doubling, and forcing chaos, you can't hesitate. You have to control the pace, make the right reads, calm the team down, and keep everyone connected under pressure. That responsibility is completely different from simply being an elite scorer. And that's the question that keeps following Kevin Durant after the Golden State Warriors years. Because Durant the scorer, all-time great. Durant the offensive weapon, practically unstoppable. But Durant as the centerpiece leader guiding a team through playoff adversity, adjustments, and pressure-packed moments, that's where the debate keeps resurfacing. And this series against the Los Angeles Lakers was supposed to quiet all of it. On paper, the matchup looked perfect for the Houston Rockets. The Lakers came in undermanned, lacking major offensive firepower, looking vulnerable in ways people didn't expect heading into the postseason. Houston should have viewed this as business. Handle the series. Advance. Silence the noise. This was supposed to be Durant's opportunity to remind everyone he could still anchor a legitimate playoff run as the unquestioned centerpiece. But almost immediately, things started to feel unstable. Game 1 arrives, and Durant can't even go because of the knee issue suffered in practice. And even though Houston still believed they should win the series regardless, something shifted the moment that happened. The Lakers stopped looking intimidated. They started believing, and in playoff basketball, belief is dangerous. That was the first crack in the door.
On the bus. Yeah, no. But what has happened when he was driving the bus?
Well, he's never just...
No, what was happening when he was driving the bus?
He lost to the finals.
Yeah, okay, he did. And then when he was in Oklahoma City...
Then Kevin Durant comes back, and suddenly the expectation changes again. Team minimum. People assumed the Houston Rockets would stabilize the series, split games, and pull everything back under control. But that never really happened. Instead, the Los Angeles Lakers started looking like the steadier team. LeBron James controlled the pace. Luke Kennard stretched the floor. Marcus Smart brought physical defense and non-stop intensity. And once the game slowed down, once every possession started carrying playoff weight, the same uncomfortable pattern around Durant started appearing again. The shot-making was still incredible. The tough buckets were still there. The flashes of brilliance never disappeared. But when the defense forced him to become more than a scorer, when they forced him to organize, read pressure, settle the team, and control chaos, things started getting shaky. That's where the conversation becomes serious. Because the Lakers weren't doing anything revolutionary defensively and no gimmicks. No impossible schemes. No secret formula. They simply stayed disciplined. They crowded Durant's space, showed help defenders early, sent timely doubles, and forced quick decisions. Basic playoff pressure, and somehow, that pressure kept exposing cracks. Durant started forcing difficult passes. Possessions became rushed. Turnovers appeared at the worst moments. Instead of dictating the game, he began reacting to it. And that's the distinction Barkley has always been pointing toward. A championship bus driver isn't judged only by scoring highlights, he's judged by control. By how calm the team stays when everything tightens up. By whether he can read pressure instead of getting swallowed by it. And when Durant faced that pressure in this series, the Lakers kept proving something uncomfortable. Elite scoring alone doesn't automatically make someone the engine of a championship team.
One of the biggest differences between the CBA and today's NBA and the past is the involvement of the second apron, which is a higher salary threshold that discourages a team from spending more once they exceed the general cap space. In retrospect, the second apron was implemented to prevent superstars from forming super teams and creating an uneven competitive.
And in that second half, everything unraveled fast. Kevin Durant, one of the most unstoppable scorers basketball has ever seen, suddenly looked completely out of rhythm once the Los Angeles Lakers turned up the pressure. One made field goal while the game slipped away. 1-for-5 shooting. Nothing falling from deep. Missed free throws. 5 turnovers in a single half. That's not just a bad stretch offensively, that's losing control of the game itself. And that's exactly when Charles Barkley's bus rider comments start echoing louder than ever. Because bus riders can still look amazing when everything around them is functioning smoothly. Bus drivers are judged differently. They're judged by what happens when things stop working, when defenses tighten up, when momentum flips, when teammates get rattled, when the offense starts collapsing possession by possession. That's when true control reveals itself. And that's the uncomfortable part of the Durant conversation people keep avoiding. Nobody is questioning the talent. Nobody serious is pretending Durant isn't one of the greatest scorers the sport has ever produced. His skill level is undeniable, but elite scoring and full leadership responsibility are not automatically the same thing. Making impossible shots is different from organizing an entire team under playoff pressure. Being a walking bucket is different from stabilizing 5 players when the game starts slipping away. Durant absolutely proved he can be the ultimate finishing weapon. We already saw that with the Golden State Warriors. In the right structure, with the right system already in place, he became nearly impossible to stop. But when he's asked to become the entire engine, the organizer, the stabilizer, the force holding everything together when chaos hits, the results keep looking much more complicated. And that's why Barkley's criticism refuses to disappear. Not because Durant lacks greatness, but because the difference between being the weapon and being the driver keeps showing up in the biggest moments.
I don't know why he's so angry all the time about at the generation of basketball, but I guess that's what it is.
Now here's the part people still aren't fully saying out loud. The Houston Rockets did not bring in Kevin Durant just to add a few extra points per game. They brought him in to solve everything. To be the shortcut from promising to championship level. Houston reshaped the roster, changed the locker room dynamic, and made a massive statement to the entire league. This is the superstar who is supposed to take us from interesting to dangerous. And on paper, the move sounds obvious: swap younger pieces, like Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks, for one of the greatest scorers ever. More playoff experience, more efficiency, bigger star power, more credibility in big moments. Easy decision, right? But now the harder question is starting to surface. What did Houston actually gain? Because if the chemistry becomes shakier, if the team loses some of its edge, if the defensive identity weakens, and if the exact same playoff concerns keep showing up under pressure, then the superstar trade doesn't automatically solve the real issue. That's the uncomfortable reality hanging over this whole situation. Adding Kevin Durant guarantees elite shot. Making a T does not automatically guarantee structure, leadership stability, or playoff control when things start breaking down. And if the Rockets still end up facing the same questions in May that they faced before the trade, then Barkley's entire argument becomes impossible to ignore. Because the goal wasn't just to become more talented. The goal was supposed to be becoming tougher to break under pressure, and right now, people are starting to wonder whether Houston changed the name at the center. of the roster, without actually changing the core problem underneath it all.
Why did they have to come up with the BS rules, Bill? Because all these guys want to play together and not compete. How many great players do we need in one team? Barkley said on his appearance on the Bill Simmons.
Kevin Durant was supposed to solve these problems, not leave them sitting in the exact same place. Because the biggest question surrounding the Houston Rockets was never simply about scoring talent, it was about leadership once playoff pressure hits. When the game gets tight, who settles the offense down? Who organizes everyone when possessions start turning chaotic? When Durant gets trapped or doubled? Who instantly makes the clean read that keeps the defense rotating instead of allowing everything to freeze? When momentum swings and emotions spike, who calms the entire group down and restores structure? That's what true franchise leaders do, that's what real bus drivers are responsible for. And this is where the criticism around Durant keeps resurfacing. Because the moment defenses send even moderate pressure his way, an extra help defender, a soft double, crowded driving lanes, the rhythm often starts breaking apart, that there's a hesitation. Just a split second. But in playoff basketball, that split second changes everything. The defense loads up. The ball sticks. Movement slows down. Spacing collapses. Suddenly the offense stops looking connected and starts looking improvised. And once that happens, Houston no longer looks like a structured contender. They look like a team searching for answers in real time. That's the difference Barkley has been hammering for years. Elite scorers can survive chaos. True bus drivers control it before it spreads to the rest of the team.
Made up these rules, these young people, well, if I had $1 for every time I heard the second apron, why did Adam Silver have to put the second apron in? Because LeBron wanted to get all of his guys together. KD wanted to go play with the Warriors. Wait, y'all don't want to win a championship and compete against each other?
This is where a lot of younger fans misunderstand what they are watching. They see a smooth jumper, a deep scoring bag, and 30 points on the stat sheet and automatically assume that means someone led the team. But playoff basketball does not work that way. The postseason exposes the difference between scoring and control. An elite scorer can put up huge numbers while the offense around him still looks disorganized and disconnected. A true driver impacts the entire structure of the game. Even when his own shot is not falling, he reads the defense, he manipulates coverage, he punishes double teams, he creates clean looks for teammates, he keeps the system stable when pressure starts rising. That is the real difference between being a weapon and being a leader. And that's where Kevin Durant keeps facing uncomfortable questions. Because Durant absolutely looks unstoppable when everything is flowing smoothly. In space, with rhythm, with clean matchups, he can look almost unfair offensively. But once the game becomes physical and chaotic, once defenses start speeding him up, crowding his space, and forcing fast decisions instead of pure shot-making, the cracks start appearing again. And people naturally compare that to players like LeBron James or Stephen Curry in those same situations. Say whatever you want about LeBron, but if defenses repeatedly send pressure at him, he adjusts. He reads the floor, finds the outlet, bends the defense, and keeps attacking until the coverage breaks. Steph does it differently, but just as effectively. Sometimes he doesn't even need the ball in his hands to organize the offense. His movement alone creates spacing, confusion, and opportunities for everyone else on the court. Durant's gravity as a scorer is absolutely real. But turning that gravity into organized offense for an entire team? That's where the discussion changes. And the uncomfortable part is this pattern is not new anymore. It showed up with the Brooklyn Nets, it showed up with the Phoenix Suns. Now people believe they are seeing it again with the Houston Rockets. When the game is clean and flowing, Durant looks like one of the greatest offensive players ever. But once defenses get physical, crowd his space, and force rapid decisions under pressure, the offense around him often starts losing structure at this point. Critics no longer view it as a one-series issue, they see a repeating pattern. And that's why Charles Barkley's bus rider label continues to sting. Because it attacks the exact thing Durant wants most respect for. Not just being a scorer, not just being talented, but being viewed as the kind of franchise leader who can carry a team all the way through championship pressure. And every time one of Durant's post-Golden State teams falls short, the separation in that debate grows wider. People start saying the same thing again. KD is an all-time talent, but But is he truly the engine that drives a championship system? And if Houston exits early, especially after building so much around him that narrative is only going to get louder, then the list keeps growing. Brooklyn didn't fully work. Phoenix didn't fully work. And if Houston falls short too, critics will immediately circle back to the same conclusion. The Golden State Warriors worked because Steph Curry was driving the system while Durant functioned as the ultimate finishing weapon inside it. Fair or unfair, that's the argument being built in real time, and every difficult playoff moment keeps adding evidence to it. Which is why this series carries far more weight than a normal playoff matchup. This isn't just Lakers versus Rockets anymore, it's another referendum on Kevin Durant's identity after Golden State. Can he still be the unquestioned driver of a contender? Or is he at his best as an elite final piece inside a structure already built by someone else? That's the question hanging over everything right now. And it's the exact question Barkley has been asking from the very beginning. So was Charles Barkley just hating with all that bus rider talk, or was he seeing something early that the rest of the basketball world refused to acknowledge? Because nobody is denying what Kevin Durant is as a scorer. The jumper will always be smooth. The talent will always be historic. The shot making will always demand respect. But when the game turns ugly, when possessions get messy, defenses tighten up, and somebody has to completely take control of the wheel, the Houston Rockets are still waiting to see whether Durant can consistently become that guy. And if Houston struggles to take over against a short-handed Los Angeles Lakers squad, then Barkley's criticism suddenly starts sounding a lot less like disrespect and a lot more like uncomfortable truth. Because now the issue goes beyond Durant's individual stat line, it's about how the entire team responds when their supposed leader can't fully steady the game under pressure. When your main star looks uncertain, that energy spreads fast across the floor, possessions become rushed, players stop cutting with confidence, shooters hesitate instead of firing immediately. Clean offensive sets slowly turn into late clock improvisation and forced shots. That's not only a role player issue, that comes from the top. Real floor generals create stability no matter how chaotic things become. Even during ugly stretches, there's still structure, communication, direction, control. But right now, when pressure rises against Houston, the team often starts looking disconnected, like 5 players reacting separately instead of one unit operating together. And the Lakers can sense it immediately. They see the hesitation, they see the pauses, so they press harder, rotate faster, crowd passing lanes, speed everything up, because they trust that eventually Houston will crack under the pressure. And too often, they've been right. That's why this conversation is bigger than missed shots or one bad playoff stretch. This is about command, about presence, about who can calm the game down when everything starts spiraling. Because when the postseason tightens up, somebody has to dictate the pace instead of reacting to whatever the defense throws at them. And right now, Houston still doesn't consistently look like a team that has that stabilizing presence when things get difficult. Which creates another major question hanging over this entire roster. If Durant isn't fully organizing those moments, then who is? Championship teams always have an answer to that question. They have a voice, a stabilizer, a decision maker who keeps everything connected once the pressure becomes overwhelming. If Houston can't clearly identify that player, then this problem isn't disappearing anytime soon. Because playoff basketball is never only about who can score the most points, it's about who stays composed, makes the right reads, and controls chaos when everything is collapsing around them. Right now, opponents believe they already have the blueprint for Houston. Crowd Durant, send help defenders early, force rush decisions, wait for the offense to lose structure, and until Durant consistently proves he can break that formula under playoff pressure, teams are going to keep attacking the Rockets the exact same way. Which means this moment becomes bigger than one series. This is now about Durant's identity after the Golden State Warriors years. Can he still prove he's the true driver of a contender? Or will the criticism only grow louder with every postseason disappointment? Because the talent debate ended years ago, nobody questions the talent. The question now is leadership under pressure, control under chaos, the ability to guide a team through ugly playoff moments when nothing comes easy, and fair or unfair, that's how the NBA works at this level. You either answer those questions on the court, or the questions follow you forever.